in a request, like I sent in the application and everything, and I haven't heard.
It's been kind of an interesting, spotty process so far. So it doesn't surprise me that you wouldn't have gotten a confirmation. But to assure you that we've been having conversations that because we're using that level 3 gallery space at the MCOM Center, which is where we did most of our framework plan stuff, that room is quite large. And so since that room does accommodate more than 30 people, that if we get more than 30 people, I'm hoping that they'll be okay. And that's kind of what it sounded like,
Yeah.
to have more than, but it's been, we didn't have a lot of lead time on, and we actually got them to extend it. So.
I know, I got the email, if you wanna attend, here's, email this person, she'll send you an application, then you submit the application. And the email this person, the first step was like the next day or something. And I immediately thought, this is, I mean, how are we even gonna get the word out that this exists?
Right.
And then you sent the direct link, and that got me the application, but I never heard back from the application, so.
We'll see how it goes, but we'll get this. I'm not available. Yeah, no, that's fine. I just hadn't thought to ask that question either, so when you posted, I didn't know what to expect as to, we haven't heard any details as to what type of, any speakers or what the training specifically is gonna be. I haven't.
Yeah, it's.
From the little that's here, it seems very geared toward visual artists.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, I better check. That's not a correct assumption that.
Right, and like I say, I didn't feel like I had enough information to really give any good guidance. I still don't, but if anybody is still interested, from a correspondence this morning, they still had it open today.
Yes, just turn your mics on. Can't hear you.
You ready?
Okay.
That's the gong. We have a quorum enough to go? Okay. Good afternoon. This is the City of Moorhead Art and Culture meeting, Art and Culture Commission meeting for October 21st, 2019. It's 4:30 p.m. Our group today, we're going to be discussing a few items here we have on our meeting minutes. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Before we begin, I want to see if there's any agenda amendments that we might need to discuss. All right, none here. In that case, we need to approve our minutes from our previous meeting on September 16th. Everybody take a second to flip back and kind of double check through that. See if there's anything that raises an eyebrow or not. We need a motion to approve.
I would move to approve the minutes as submitted.
I would second it.
All those in favor of approving the minutes from September, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. The meeting minutes are approved for September 16th. In this case, now moving further down the line here, we have citizens to be heard. Seeing as there are no citizens here, except for us on this cold, rainy, windy day, I guess we're going to move ahead with that. So none at this point. So moving quickly down the agenda, reports and information. So Kim, if you could kind of guide us through here, we have some information to discuss about future projects.
Sure. So at our last meeting, we discussed the 2019 budget that we had remaining short of us helping facilitate this artist workshop that will be happening on November 2nd. We have additional budget to use. And so as we finalized the meeting last month, there was recommendation for artistic benches. And that same week, if not the next day, I received this email with the photo that you see here from our former mayor and Art and Culture Commission member, Delray Williams, who had suggested maybe some sort of artistic bench like this. So I did a little bit of investigation, and Fargo's vendor that applied a wrap to their metal benches within their downtown. The cost per bench was approximately $400, and it takes a week or two for them to, once they have the work of art, to produce the wrap and install it. I believe that there are also temperature conditions, so we might need to wait till spring to actually install. But if we have that vendor selected by the end of this year, I think we would be good to go. So my proposal is to, and then I had reached out, since Sue wasn't able to be at our meeting last time, and she's one of our visual artists, I connected with her and tried to talk about how do we solicit the art? Because that's always one of my challenges as I try to do research is how do you compensate, or how do we budget, or how do we look to that type of thing? And Sue had the great suggestion of maybe using student art, because then they would have the experience and the grade as part of that compensation. Is that right?
Yeah, so the idea came up to reach out to Grady Carlson, who is the senior art instructor at Moorhead High School, and see if, initially we were a little concerned about the timeline, so the idea first came up to see if he already had a project on the books that could work for this. But Kim then pointed out that we really just need the contract for the vendor, so we have essentially all winter to make the art. Anyway, the idea is we reached out to Grady and kind of shared the idea with him, and he was all for it, especially because he does have curriculum that would suit this, and he could tweak that curriculum a bit to make it very specific if we wanted to have a theme for the artwork. But it would make it more personal for the students, but it's also, as Kim mentioned, it's a learning opportunity for them, and especially right now where there's so much drive towards professional development in the high school years already. It's a good opportunity for them to go through the process. So the idea is that Grady's or Mr. Carlson's students in a class, but he wants to leave it open to anybody in the high school, whether they happen to be enrolled in an art class that semester or not. So the idea is that anybody in the high school can submit artwork to Grady, who will bring it to us, and we will not know who did what piece. So the art review team would go through and narrow down the pieces to 7. We already know where the benches are, so there's the possibility of jurying the work to make it site-specific to a certain extent, or however they go about it, quality or uniqueness or site-specific, however the review team wants to do it. But it would be completely anonymous, and that seemed like the most equitable and fair way of jurying. So, and then also, of course, making sure the artwork is appropriate for a public venue and fits with the parameters of the project.
Well, just to make sure, if anybody's watching this and curious as to how this is being funded, when the funds came available last time, we said, okay, let's spread out and try to spread the word that there are funds available. Just to make sure that people know, I personally sent an email to the chair of the art departments of Concordia and MSUM to notify them that if you're interested in this, there's this money available, it has to act fast. And I gave them Kim's, I think I CC'd Kim on that, contact Ms. Satrowski here about possibilities, and also put posts on Moorhead Fantastic, Artists of Moorhead as well, just to make sure that we try to get at least get the word out. So this is like something we're trying to slide through behind closed doors. We need to get this done and get it quickly. So this seems like, to me, this seems like a great project that would fill, that's amazing. It fills exactly $2,800, right almost up to the penny. That's really great.
And that's just the vendor that Fargo used. I still plan to solicit Moorhead businesses to see where they're at and get actual quotes. But for purposes of this, I had 1 month to figure it out, and I wanted to make sure this is exactly the type of path you wanted to go to before we actually make people crunch numbers and give us what their estimates would be.
And the 7 benches that have been earmarked for this are generally in the downtown area, so there's a little bit tying into that downtown revitalization effort as well.
Right. But again, the wraps are temporary in nature. They do have an approximate 5-year or so. So I don't know if there is a charge that the downtown plan that is underway would have some direction. Like in 5 years, we'd probably be looking for something different anyway.
Right. Right.
The one thing I do want us to keep in mind, and I know depending on the vendor and everything, I know we can't have money rolling over year after year, but moving forward with the wraps, should one of them be damaged from, weather or whatever, we do need to keep some funds accessible so we can remove a wrap if we have to, or replace a wrap or if we have to.
Right, and right now, I don't have anything that would lead me to believe that our budgeted dollars that we had this year, that we wouldn't get those next year. So we could maybe use that if we do have some maintenance or repair. And then as you can see on page 3 of your packet, at our last meeting, we had talked about where we were at with other budgets. So just to remind you that in 2016, we had donations from the Sidewalk Art and Poetry, and the remaining balance, just because we were able to be so economical when we used the local vendor, that we have dollars saved that were earmarked for that type of project. And then the remaining funds with the FM Area Foundation Art and Culture General, which includes some of that Moorhead Proud art, plus additional donations. That balance is $10,012.18. So we do have other funds that we can explore future forward as well.
Good.
I really love the notion of soliciting art from students.
Yeah.
I think as a young artist, there's a lot of question often about the path and about the work, and to have a concrete example of here are people who actually want to purchase what you make and display it publicly. What a great message for them.
Yeah, and one of the ideas we had to possibly using next year's funding is to have a reception for the 7 students whose artwork was chosen, maybe have the artwork on display downstairs in the hallways, but just really make sure that they get the recognition.
Or if this is $2,000, and it's like you haven't taken other bids, it might come in lower, but $100, $200 would definitely pay for a Yomcom's reception
Yep.
pretty well, so.
Or even some kind of a site-based celebration, that would be a.
In the spring.
In the spring, a community kind of opening or ribbon cutting or, some
Yeah,
sort of.
Get a little publicity for the arts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to get to meet the kids and, get them out there.
I just want to say, I think all of us too, again, for those who may be watching or listening, there is a system in place for area artists to come to this group and propose a project completely out of the blue. There's an application process and there's a review process that we have in place now. So whether you have funding or you're going for a grant or whatever, we have a system in place for these types of projects. So I would very much like to encourage people to look into that.
I'd like to encourage people to look into it, not only because, well, A, we can't always guarantee we have funds available, but sometimes we have weird moments like this where funds become available, surprisingly. It'd be great in the back of our minds to be able to say, remember that great project that was proposed a couple months ago?
Yep.
Let's contact that guy and that lady, and let's see what we can do to get this happening. And so it's great to know that there are ideas out there that just need someone to press the go button. So share your ideas, please. So, Kim, what would you like us to do at this point, then?
So I'd also like us to have a little bit of a discussion. Should there be some guidance on what the theme or artistic expression should portray? Is there some direction that we can give those kids, or do we leave it open-ended? And I just wanted to have some conversation. I did reach out to Downtown Moorhead, Inc. and the Moorhead Business Association, and they were both supportive of the concept. And they gave some of these examples. So they gave, just having Moorhead Proud or the 56560, and then the brand narrative statement that the city had gone through that process, which is included here. We believe this is where the strong belong. Moorhead is a rising metro. We are a growing, vibrant business, academic, and art community. We have a culture of achievement rooted in the spirit of curiosity. Here we choose to be more. And then there was also a video that was produced that had this too. And so I don't know if we want those types of things or
Could I maybe, I mean, we had this little 56560 thing take off 2 or 3 years ago, and then it kind of seems to have petered out. I'd kind of like to see what kids could do with just that in different ways and creative ideas. I mean, personally, I know that I know when I've worked with high school students, oftentimes when I say, "Here, give me something," they freeze, or the ideas become really scattershot. But when you say, "Give me something in this vein," then the creativity gets a little more juicy. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I like the idea of 565 but I'd be open to anything. But I like the idea of kind of a little bit more of a theme rather than just give me your best whatever.
My only thought with, I think the 56560 can make a great design challenge for the students. My only thought is if that is too narrow a parameter for the assignment Grady already has that he's going to be working with. Although if it's not an assignment in a specific class, but it's open to the high school and Grady is assisting with that, then maybe that's fine. So I almost feel like we have some time, because basically these can't be installed until spring, correct?
Right.
So it might be worth having a conversation with
Could have
Mr.
him?
Carlson
Yeah,
and
could we
see.
invite him to our next meeting to,
I can see, I guess I don't know what his schedule looks like, but we could.
yeah, not to grill him, but just to say, how can we make it easier for you?
Yeah, I don't want to put too much on him either, yeah.
You know, it's just to say, what can we do to make this
Right.
fit what you need?
Yeah, I think in some ways a discussion of whatever the constraints may or may not be, might be best to have with him.
Do you need us to tentatively approve some motion right now to move this forward?
I guess, does anybody have any concerns with this option? I don't know if we need to, if you want to offer a motion, but I think as long as we go down this path, I think is maybe next time when I would have a firm bid and we would have to have that type of thing just to,
And we could have him here to pick a theme more specifically, or to talk what are his option, what he would see as being
Right.
the best.
so I think is, you can sure offer a motion, but or else we can, as long as nobody objects to this path, I think that's fine as well.
No objection.
No objections.
Nope.
All right. In that case, maybe someone make a motion to pursue this specific project using the $3,000?
Yeah, I move to move forward with the bench project involving the high school students and allocating the upwards of $3,000 for that project.
I'll second that. Sound good to me, yeah.
All those in favor? Any further discussion first? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, move forward. I really hope that this is encouraging for him too in his project. I know my own father is an artist and art educator in a lot of ways, and he's in Tennessee now, but he did some research in his own county down in, this is the Nashville area, major metropolitan area. And he found out that he was incredibly discouraged working with local art teachers. Found out that local art teachers in Nashville, the budget they have to get art supplies for art students is less than 50 cents per student. And they're supposed to teach these kids how to make art when you have 50 cents per kid. I mean, crayons cost more than 50 cents per kid, you know? So hopefully, I don't know what the budget is for the Moorhead Public School, but to say, hey, we got some money for you to do something lasting for the community, I hope he finds that exciting. I hope I do. So, all right, let's see here. So next on our agenda, project updates. Kim, before we jump on this, can I ask from our last meeting, Sandy, obviously we approved to act as a possible facilitator, as it were, for Sandy and the Plains, and there, is any concerns about that come forward yet, or is that?
No, and I think they're just kind of on hold until they're able to figure out exactly their path moving forward. So they had an idea for the storage area that then to come to find out that it's not eligible for Lake Region Art Council or Minnesota State Arts Board funding. So right now, I think they're just back at the drawing board to see what their options are.
Okay.
And then, follow up from our meeting as well. I don't know, on page 5, I've kind of laid out some of the things to look forward to as we work, without having to rush through like we are in these last couple months of figuring out how to spend any budget that we might have, and then maybe allowing us to think a little bit bigger if we'd like to seek grant funding ourselves to help supplement or fully fund any other future projects. So on page 5, you can see that we're anticipating having some sort of I-94 water tower art to be determined, and Moorhead Public Service has given the city a deadline of September 1st of 2020 to develop that artwork.
And just to be clear, that is going to be done through a branding consultant and not the same process that the other 3 towers were done?
I'm not certain exactly what the path is. Last I heard that they were considering doing a call for art, but I don't know anything more. And if that is in fact the way they're going to go.
That's interesting. It seems like last time we were kind of the instigators for this, and now it seems like they like it, so they're going to do it, which is great. As long as it's going forward.
And I'm hoping that we'll have some involvement with this one as well, but I don't know any of the details at this time. And then we've already got earmarked funding for the Storm Drain Community Art Project, which will get launched next year as well. So we've got some of those projects that don't have any budget impacts that we know of quite yet.
Out of curiosity, are those storm drains near where these benches are proposed?
I don't know. I don't think they've been defined yet. So River Keepers, I think, will be reaching out to visual artists, and they'll also be reaching out to the Moorhead Police Department. The Moorhead Police Department has organized the little block clubs that help celebrate the Night to Unite. So they'll be working, kind of trying to figure out which block clubs would be interested in hosting an artist and then working it out. So I think it kind of depends on which neighborhoods get selected and if there would be a downtown neighborhood group or not, I'm not sure. So,
Designed to be all over the city, though. So.
right. There's the possibility that they could be, yes.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know if anybody has any suggestions or any path moving forward of things we should be thinking about or considering.
Should we be thinking about, for the art tower, if the tower art project, if it's going to be coming more through the city and through a branding initiative and less through us, do you have an idea of what our future role might be in terms of helping to support or helping to look for funds or anything like that? Or is
I
it
don't,
simply-
but I continue to advocate that we would have some touches. I mean, because as we went through, we kind of helped lead and find the funding for the Oakport Water Tower. And then a lot of the players, the artists, and a few of the other, Sue helped facilitating it. We were just a touch point, I believe. Wouldn't you say, Sue? And then same with the South Side. We were a touch point when Carrie Lee Kinslow came and we gave some feedback and some comments, but it's still a Moorhead Public Service water tower, and they still have those decisions of approving final designs. But we'll see.
I almost think, in terms of coming up with a more grand project that, a 5-year plan type thing, I would like to see something next year where maybe we partner with the Rourke or with the Yumcomst and host some community events that is sort of brainstorming sessions. We bring together a whole bunch of creatives and community ambassadors of sorts, and we see what the community wants for the 5-year plan. Maybe they have a grand idea that we can really point to and start really working towards and supporting in incremental steps. So every year there's a goal that leads us to that final path, that final destination.
I remember saw an article in the forum recently. There was a survey done that people in Fargo said if they would want to see more murals in general. And I can't imagine people in Moorhead would be that far removed from the same mindset. But just getting that public, what direction can we take this? Especially now that we have a strategic plan in place. We have a cultural framework plan. Say, here's what our priorities are. What do you see we could do with these to make these reality? How do we make these ideas into concrete community realities?
I like that idea too, and the idea of a a speaking tour or like a listening tour, I mean, where you go and listen to what people are interested in or what ideas folks have in that human-centered, people-centered kind of a design process where, you do design your final product based on the need and the desire of the community, so.
I think if we do pursue something like that, I would like to advocate that we make a very concerted, distinct effort to reach out to the people in Moorhead who are not often included, or who don't necessarily, and this is an assumption, but may not necessarily feel that they are, that their voices, that we want to hear that, or whatever. But yeah, I would very much like to hear from the people we don't normally hear from.
So if I'm hearing that maybe our next, our budget items, we've got these other projects that we've known for a while, would be some sort of planning process. Have any of you worked with artistic consultants? I know Carrie had some suggestions last time we went through our planning process that we could reach out to and have a understanding of what those services would be or how much they would be. So if we start looking at budgeting items, or if we need to look for some grant support or things like that.
I think there's actually a couple of people in town.
Perfect.
We don't have to bring anybody from the
Okay.
cities if we don't, I mean.
Right.
No.
So if you think of those, I don't know if you want to share now or if you want to email later, either which way, just because I feel like the normal planning consultants we have would probably be just fine, but I think having people that, if you've been on a art-specific type of process, it might be good to
Yeah.
get some suggestions.
I guess I'm also thinking that, we have at least a framework plan. And so making sure that we have the mechanisms in place to consider the framework plan and then sort of begin, what's the level of prioritization that people, so not doing a new framework plan.
No,
It's
no.
more of a, how do we now ask people, in light of where we are, what would you think of as being a first priority or worth a longer range plan because it's going to take more resources to actually bring it to fruition? What are those things that people are most interested in? Taking the framework plan that we have. The other thing that I'd be really interested in is just an awareness of our timing in this year and revisiting that plan with regard to where the downtown master plan goes. So perhaps spring is the appropriate time for that. I'm not quite sure on that timeline, but I would love for us to have the opportunity to sit down and, whether it's in the context of this meeting or a more sort of longer retreat sort of session, to really look at where those two things are aligned, because that's going to be important, I think, for the downtown framework plan to really have each of the commissions who have purview to be able to say, this is what we know about the plan that we've put together, this is what we know about citizens' interest, and how we can help make the downtown plan actually successful.
I'd like to add, too, that we have not only the downtown plan coming to fruition here in the next year, or at least that being put in forward, we also have this opportunity with this brand-new underpass and all that land that's been cleared, and right now it's going to come out looking great, but it's going to be raw concrete and dirt. And so there's a great opportunity to make something of an artistic statement in that brand-new corridor. And I'd love to hear what the public's ideas for that would be, because it's going to be great to have it, but right now it's going to be kind of unsightly until something happens. So
Yeah, there's, some of that might be restricted because the bids are already in and, like doing concrete work or something,
I'm talking about, I'd like to hear what creative ideas
Yeah,
might be,
yeah.
especially once all the dirt's settled and we know what people
Yep.
have as a framework. Because right now, people talking about, I can't even begin to envision what it looks like, because I've just seen cones for years.
yeah.
But when we see the final project, go, wow, it'd be great to have something right there, or to have this there, then that'd be a great way to say, okay, we have this, here's some great site location, here is our arts and culture framework plan, what from this plan might impact this finished product now? What would be next? So I'd love to see some.
And just to add to all of the complexities of ongoing projects, the planning office will be launching an RFP, a request for proposals, for a new comprehensive plan. So we'll begin that planning process next year.
Cool. So there's lots of opportunity.
Yes.
Artists, if you're listening, hope you're listening. There's lots of opportunity.
So as we were talking about partnering with some of our stakeholders, it made me think of when the Art and Culture was first established. We went through a mini speaker series where we invited some of the schools and we invited some of the other art organizations in town, and I don't know if we want to do that before or during, or would that be of value, or how would you see, how do we collaborate with all of our arts organizations in town and education folks?
I think it would be valuable for them, if we do the listening sessions like Tim had mentioned, I think it would be valuable for them to be present at those. And, if you think about ideas moving up the power chain instead of coming down, I'd like to hear from the public, and then those ideas can maybe assist those institutions as well as us. The other thing is, I think we have a lot of groups in our community that I'm learning about new groups every day that I didn't even know are in Moorhead. And I feel almost like a little ashamed that I didn't know they existed. And I don't know how to reach out to what you don't know is there. But I'd like to figure out that challenge and hear from them. What are they doing? What is their organization? What's the goal? And yeah.
Maybe our listening tour really ought to be a tour, right? I would love to go to groups and organizations and have a
Yeah.
chance to listen, as opposed to asking them to
It
necessarily
might be
come
nice to
here.
have 2 or 3 of these meetings that meet, 4:30 at one location, at 5:10 at another location, and nearby, and do that for 2 or 3 meetings in a row. And
So how would you suggest logistically accomplishing that, though? Like, how do I find out about groups, or how do we organize that of things? Do you all want to try to email me individually any groups that you would think, and we can start a list of
we're talking not just
organizations?
arts, but cultural groups as well. so-
Yes, yeah.
Right, but anybody who we'd like to maybe hear from, how do we
Yep.
start creating some sort of group where we can start to organize? Because
Well-
right now, it just sounds like a huge mountain to try to figure out.
My question is there like legal paperwork if you're incorporated in Minnesota and your listed addresses in Moorhead? Is there any way to find out who all the nonprofits are and then kind of narrow it down from there?
I have some information from when we worked on the,
The economic impact
yes,
study.
thank you. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So we
that's-
have a
that's
little
pretty
bit of-
comprehensive
That's
list.
a good list.
But at the same time, I don't know if it's all encompassing, so that's the challenge.
But it's a good start.
It's a place to
Right.
start.
But I agree that might be just a logistical nightmare and really not very productive. But it might be, the best might be to set 2 or 3 forums that we would host in various locations, maybe
Right.
over a course of a few weeks. And then just invite folks that we would want to have and ask them to be represented at one of them so that we can.
But
Very
anybody-
specific invitation.
Would anybody want to volunteer to partner with me to get, I just feel like sometimes just sitting in my office trying to figure out how to tackle these suggestions is hard, but if I could go to coffee or something and,
I can help.
Yeah,
I'll help.
I'd be happy to help us.
Okay.
I mean, if we had a short list, for example, and then I could look at it and say, I know these 3 people at these 3 places on this list of 10,
Yeah.
I'm willing to open the door on the behalf of the Art and Culture Commission that we might want to host a forum there. Would they be willing
Well, and I
and
think
interested?
too.
That I think might be a manageable way to go at
Right.
it.
You understand where I'm like,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Well, I think
I
too,
know.
you
Cold
know,
calling people.
in the initial reach, saying we're trying to do this, start with the list and then ask them, who do you know that's not on this list? And we can, you know,
Yeah.
if everybody recommends 3 people, pretty soon, you know, we'll
cover things.
Yeah.
Excellent. Moving on to the back here, looking at the back page, page 6, I guess, Kim, is there, so the project updates here, the Florence Klingon-Smith mural, do we have, there's the date, October 28th. Boy, I sure hope it's not snowing or raining.
next Monday. Next Monday at 10 in the morning, they're going to unveil it.
Wow, okay.
I got confirmation today. I had reached out last week as I was
Okay.
working on our packet and didn't hear anything right away.
Where's it being done? I was at the ACE yesterday, I didn't even notice it.
So I believe they're working on it in their studio. So they have a studio where they're making most of it. It'll be, you know,
And then it'll be mounted.
Okay, good.
And it's very timely because the Yumkamst, Mark was it just recently, or he's about to give a presentation on?
well, if you go to the One Book, One Community, I think, .org website, there have been, so that's where it all started. This One Book, One Community picked the Fly Girls book and have developed a whole speaker series and all kinds of events and had already organized having the author of Fly Girls fly in here. Next Monday, he'll be here. So he'll be here and he'll have a talk that evening at the Fargo Air Museum. But he wanted to be here for this mural unveiling, so we made sure he had his flight accommodation so he can be at this mural unveiling as well.
It's like the unofficial Florence Klingon-Smith Day.
Right, so
Moorhead ought to declare it if you haven't yet.
there is a huge
cities do that
group
all
of
the time.
folks who have done so many great things. So hopefully they'll be recognized because I've just helped a little bit with our part of the call for art. But there are so many fantastic people in our community who have championed that project. So I just want to make sure, and I hope that they get recognized at all of the events that happen, because I know that the libraries have a whole committee dedicated to this One Book, One Community, and they've done lots of things. And like you said, there's speaker series and all kinds of great things. So again, once we start partnering with some of our organizations, we'll maybe know more too of those types of things. So hopefully you can come out and check it out.
Notice the Riverkeeper, we discussed the Riverkeepers project, which is obviously a little bit on hold until the spring, but it's moving forward. Arts and Culture Map, we discussed last time, obviously a little bit of a wait there to see what Concordia's.
I received a correspondence after our last meeting from Concordia, and there are professors, I believe, although we don't know, or they don't know exactly how this will proceed, they're interested in figuring out how it would go. I think it was just maybe transition and everything real quick of, well, I've already got all of my curriculum figured out. How do I add this? But now that we have a little bit more time, I think we're going to be meeting and having more discussions. I think they're interested in having a metro-wide map. So that will be something we'll be looking into.
Okay.
But at least we'll still have people working on it and making it stronger and more robust. So more to come on that one.
And the Making It Public Workshop, Saturday, November 2nd, Yomkamp Center. And that's an all-day, or mostly most of a day thing, if I'm not mistaken. You said there's still application room, there's still some openings as of right now, or?
So it had a very quick application timeline, but as of today, it's still open. So although the timeline says it closed on Saturday, if there's anyone interested in a Making It Public workshop, which is a one-day workshop for artists interested in making their art public, they're welcome to attend on November 2nd at the Yomkamp Center from 9 to 3, but they would need to fill out the application so we know what to expect for folks
Gotcha.
coming. And they can find that information in this packet. There are links.
All right, and our final bit here, artists are encouraged to advertise the Moorhead Business Directory, so.
So I just mentioned it at our last meeting, but I wanted to put it in writing, and then there's the link in the packet also. So if you get an opportunity, you can add information and make that database more robust.
Okay, good, good. We need to get that link actually posted like Artists of Moorhead.
I know, I'm
Yeah.
making notes.
Gotcha, okay. Put that out there. Okay. Then, is there any other new reports or updates? Any new material?
I have a couple things. Kenyon's referred to the Facebook group Artists of Moorhead a couple of times. We wonderfully have had interest from people outside of Moorhead in that group, so it was renamed to West Central Creatives. And also, I think the name is a little more inclusive for people who are not necessarily visual artists, because artists tends to, yeah. So West Central Creatives, we always post things related to Moorhead, but Minnesota in particular. I'll get to the sad thing in a little bit. On November 17th at 3 o'clock at the Horizon Middle School Performing Arts Center, the Lake Agassiz Concert Band is going to be playing the regional premiere of James Barnes' Ninth and Final Symphony under the direction of Mr. James Barnes himself. This is a very, very big event for the group. Do you want to talk about it?
Go
Okay.
ahead, you know.
So, 2 years ago, I think, the group had the opportunity to be part of a 25-group consortium that commissioned the symphony. We are one of 2 community bands in the country, and we are the only group, the next closest group is in Kansas City. So we're the only group that can play this piece in this area for this next year. It is an over 45-minute long piece. It is a whopper. There's going to be over 65 musicians on the stage. And after the concert, there will be cake. So,
Sugar.
3 o'clock at the Horizon Middle School Performing Arts Center. It's a very unique event for the city of Moorhead. So, and then on a sad note, I just want to throw this out there into television land. Kenyon and myself are done as commissioners in January. So, I know. If you are interested in serving on this, if you're a resident of Moorhead, Kenyon is an at-large commissioner, so any resident of Moorhead can apply to be on the commission, and then you are appointed by the city council to this post, and I represent Ward 4. So we need somebody from Ward 4, and we need a member at large.
Ward 4, what that entails?
Ward 4 is, who Kim might have to help me out. I think it's about, 14th Street and East, and then 12th Ave South, maybe? It's a pretty big area.
It is, and I'm not exactly sure, but
But it's Village Green, Probstfield,
Way down south.
yep.
and then, yeah, further south
Most
from
would
there.
consider South Moorhead would be.
It's pretty much the southeast part of Moorhead, yeah. So there is an application, or there's a form to fill out on the city's website for that, and then I'm assuming the councilors review whatever's submitted, and the city council members appoint the person.
Right, so it gets a final approval at a city council meeting.
Yeah.
And emphasize the at-large position is anyone in the city. So if any of you guys know someone you think would be good, we don't have to worry about which ward they're in. It's an easy one to fill, and hopefully, and if you're listening too, if you're interested in this, please go to the website, city website, and look for the application form.
And I can't speak for Kenyon, but hopefully you still see me, and I'm going to be just as annoying after I'm no longer on the commission. I'll actually be a citizen
turn
at large
standard?
sitting in there.
It is, so when we started, we didn't
Got
want to lose everybody all at once.
Got it. I was like, wait a second.
So there are
This is
some
on the
folks-
same amount of time.
Some
Okay.
folks, I believe you and Tim Beaton will be done in 2021, but I can verify
Got
that.
okay.
We just didn't want to lose everybody, but or else we've had a little bit of turnover.
Yes, I wondered if it was this year or next. Okay, so you've got me another year. All right, that's fine. That's fine.
So be on the
I
lookout.
like this
people.
one. Of many of my obligations, I really like this one.
Let's see. Any other
The thing
further?
though is that you can be a public working artist bringing projects to the group now. There won't be a conflict anymore.
Correct.
I'm already
please.
scheming.
I know. Would you both?
Let's see, other member reports and member projects going forward, Lake Ag. I know that we're going to be entering, I know at both at MSU and Concordia, we're starting to enter that time of year with concerts and events happening almost every weekend. Theatrical presentations, all sorts of things happening. So encourage people to check out your local, you'd be amazed what you'll find on a typical weekend in any of our universities or high schools, or Moorhead High. Moorhead High Theater, I know, has got their big event coming up early in November here very soon, with Matilda and others going on, so check those out. My own group, MSU and Percussion Ensemble, is presenting on November 1st, doing a gamelan and steel band concert event. And then we take it on the road and perform in Indianapolis at the Percussive Art Society convention in mid-November. So that's kind of a big exciting point for us, which I'm going to miss the
Very
James Barnes
cool.
Chance thing because we're coming back that day from Indianapolis. So.
James Barnes, just James.
James Barnes, I'm sorry, James Barnes, sorry. Wrong composer.
There's another one.
But yeah, so I'm going to unfortunately be on the road for that. But it's going to be a great concert to get ready for that big performance down in Indianapolis. Other things?
Just a reminder, the Other Four exhibit is still going on at the Plains Art Museum, and that goes through the end of November. And early in November, I believe November 8th, 9th, Theater B actually will have a sort of an interactive performance. It's not really just a performance where people would come in, sit down, and watch something happen, because, in fact, the Other Four is about the other four senses besides sight. So the experience is one that's a little bit more immersive and is meant to help audiences understand what it's like to experience a theatrical performance as audio described, so that some of the dialogue is heard, but in fact, much of how a blind person experiences a theatrical performance is also the description that happens from someone who's not a participant in the performance, but is interpreting, describing actually is the right term, because part of the challenge of audio description is to not interpret, but to explain what is happening and let the actual action and vocal quality of what is happening on the stage be the other part of the information that a blind person takes in and then understands what's happening. So that's our performance of a play in the Plains as a part of the Other Four exhibit, so November 8th and 9th.
That's being held at the Plains.
It is.
Okay. Any further updates or information? All right, since we have no further material, I think now would be a good time to go ahead and make a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Second?
I don't know if you need to.
You need to, okay.
We don't need
This
a
time,
motion.
Go ahead and make a motion. This time we go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
participating.